Welcome to Terror in Tandem, a podcast about finding entertainment in the macabre. Hosted by the knowledgeable and lovable Laura and Richard Mathiasen. Each episode, we discuss the horror genre, from books to film to TV and beyond. Sometimes even from the beyond. You can find us online at terrorintandem.com and on Instagram at terrorintandem.
Good morning.
Good morning or afternoon.
Yeah.
Happy day.
Want to
Sorry,
address
I just
something.
Sniffled. You might have to cut that out.
You did what?
Sniffled.
Do we cut sniffles?
I don't know. Do we? Audience, have we cut sniffles? us if we've cut sniffles.
Are we canceling sniffles, folks? I want to address this, 50-something episodes in. Horror is not an easy word to say.
Yes.
I struggle with it every time I say it, and I am always in my mind worried that I am just saying horror.
You are.
I really do feel like half the time I'm describing this thing I love and have dedicated much of my time to doing, I'm just talking about
It's best to say
horse.
it with either a British or a Southern accent.
I'm going to need examples.
So you could be like, "Oi, you got that horror?"
Not bad. Not bad.
And then Southern is, yeah, well, come on down and watch a horror movie. That's like a little Forrest Gump.
Just want to apologize to everyone, honestly. Honestly, that was pretty funny. And, you do make a point. Perhaps it's just my dialect or my own way of speaking, but I've always found that word to be a little difficult to say, and I'm always worried that I am being interpreted as talking about the horror genre, which...
It's because in these accents that I so masterfully recreated... It
was like having Dick Van Dyke right in the room with me.
You do the second R as a hard R.
Yeah.
Horror.
You like them horror movies, eh? Oh, God. We just lost anybody listening.
We lost all our UK listeners.
Oh, our UK listener. No, come back. We meant nothing by it. Nothing but respect. Sorry about the revolution. Is what? Oh, anyway, so we are doing an episode today, and it is about, what is it about?
Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, for fans of Evil Dead the Musical.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you're not a fan, it just means you haven't seen it yet.
Cabin in the Woods horror movie.
Yeah.
And horror book trope.
The
horror
trope we all know so well. Actually, the trope I would argue is so ubiquitous and well known at this point. It's transcended the horror genre. Like, everyone knows what it is. Cabin in the Woods. It just sort of has this connotation of being isolated and stalked by malevolent
unknown
forces. Yeah. What be they, human or otherwise.
Anybody that's searched for an Airbnb has known the murder cabin.
Oh, for sure.
Horror cabin.
For sure. I mean,
you want to avoid.
It's like the kidnap van.
Yes, exactly.
You see a certain kind of van, you're like, oh, Buffalo Bill's behind the wheel.
Exactly. You see that windowless van, black van, old van.
Yeah, like from the Black Phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kidnap van. So Cabin in the Woods, yeah. So I thought a good place to start might be in kind of laying out the boundaries of a Cabin in the Woods movie, what the elements are, because there are some very specific and necessary elements and some obvious ones that go into making a Cabin in the Woods story.
Yeah, please do. Educate us.
All right. So obviously, when I was thinking about this, I put it into two categories, the material and the intangible. So the material, the obvious, you got a cabin.
And you got the woods.
You got the woods. Yeah. And I'm specifically, the woods can be... You can play around with that a little bit.
It could be a wooded area.
Yeah,
It could be a
the
remote
mountains.
area.
What we're really talking about when we say the woods are remote isolation, away from the trappings and the conveniences of modern existence, including communication. That's
also,
key.
It's always that long road.
Yes.
one road.
Yeah,
No,
ideally,
no
like
traffic signs, no town close by, one gas station on the way.
Yes.
One weird gas station attendant.
Well, we'll get into that. We So obviously you've got the cabin and you've got the isolated location, which from now on we're just going to call the woods. You have visitors who are coming to this cabin. Now, they don't have to be strangers to the environment, but they usually are. It's usually coupled with another trope, the fish out of water. So a lot of times we have visitors who are not from the area, but not only that, they're not from any kind of similar area. So they might be city folk or suburbanites coming to a rural town. And we'll get into some of the troubles that brings with them. And the other thing you need is a threat. Mm-hmm. You must have something that is threatening the people. So the intangible of a good cabin in the woods story, you touched on immediately, isolation.
Yes.
What do you consider that to mean beyond the physical? Because I mean, physical isolation we get. You're far away from civilization, quote unquote. You're far away from help and rescue. You are cut off from communication. And the great thing about a good cabin in the woods story, the reason why it survived into the 21st century is you could just say you don't get cell reception there. Yeah. Boom, done.
Right. Well, also, it can be a good thing. I mean, all of these getting away, escaping to a quiet cabin, disconnecting.
Yes.
These are all enticing ideas, except when, and this is one of my favorite types of horror, not cabin in the woods tropes in general, but this sense of turning something that is supposed to be enjoyable dark.
Yes, because it pulls the rug out from under you. It subverts your expectations, and it leaves a lasting trauma on any quote unquote survivors. Because this former thing of safety and comfort is now forever ruined.
Or excitement or relaxation, and
now
then you have to constantly be on guard.
Forever. Yeah.
But you asked about the isolation, and for me, it's really the sense of and this is going to sound counterintuitive to the isolation of it all, but the sense of feeling trapped. You're trapped in this wide open place because the car won't start. The tires are slashed.
You are touching on...
You have nowhere to run, but everywhere to run, but nowhere to hide, and everywhere to hide. So it's sort of this... How can something that almost feels safe really compromise your safety? Because you have no help. You have nowhere to go. You don't know where you're going half the time. If your car doesn't work and you don't know where you are, that isolation is an enemy. I had all these notes, and you are totally touching on some really... I'm just going to let the conversation go where it goes. This is great. You are absolutely touching on something I totally wanted to talk about. Is there are a series of paradoxes to the cabin in the woods trope. One of them being the isolation itself. It is both a place... Now, let's talk about the setting, the woods. Mm-hmm. The woods are ancient, full of shadow and mystery. Wild animals.
Myth. Especially talking about the American woods. Now, modern America was founded by religious lunatics called the Puritans, who, when they looked at the woods, they saw the devil and devilry. That's where women would go off to cavort nude around the fire with, old Scratch himself and perform witchcraft. Every shadow, every sound
That's
they
where
didn't
you bury
know.
the bodies.
Yes. It's always it's at once a pastoral ideal, especially for people disaffected by the stresses and dehumanization of modern life. We seek it out. We want to be isolated. We want to disconnect our phones. We want to be alone. We want to be away from civilization.
But it wasn't always like that. So think about how, society has evolved. So society created these communities, more like suburban, urban,
or starting with
development.
villages just to actually survive living in the woods.
Yeah, they came out of isolation into a more communal experience, and now it's so indoctrinated in our existence that we now need to escape back into the woods to get away from all of the pressures of the community.
What a perfect summation of the frustration of being a human being is creating solutions to problems you also created. Instead of solving the problem, you just invent and start selling the solution to the problem you also created.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, yes, we often seek out these pastoral ideals of the cabin in the woods, and that's what makes it such a great setting for a horror film, because the protagonists are going into it with an expectation of, oh, this is going to be so great, and relaxing and safe.
Exactly.
And I'm going to be away from everything that stresses me out and makes me sad.
What I love most about
Then somebody in a pig mask shows up with like a big scythe.
Well, that's the thing. The wilderness is something that, the forest can be used as a awakening or rebirth. I mean, forest bathing has emerged as a really amazing practice of mindfulness.
Yes. Shower me, Mother Gaia.
Yeah. And, people that hike have been doing it for
absolutely
decades.
I mean,
there's a
connection
to the nature of it all. But the cabin itself, and this is what I think makes it different than the nature of it all. Escaping into nature is different than going to a cabin in the woods, because the cabin is a structure, a man-made structure, where you can feel safe.
Well, I want to talk about that a little bit, because that's another section
Allegedly.
I had. There is a certain bit of inadvertent colonization in the cabin in the woods, meaning humanity has entered this ancient natural space and created something unnatural, a man-made structure with amenities, with things
maybe
that don't
electricity.
Yes. And now people from outside of that area are coming in, and whether they mean to or not, whether their attitudes are ones of humility or ones of hubris and arrogance, they are bringing with them their own cultures and their own sensibilities, which clash with the ancient natural world. So you've got this
transient.
Yes,
cabins are transient.
This addition of sort of creating a wound on the earth itself, and sometimes that leads to, cabin in the woods movies where it's almost like vengeance against the interlopers who have dared to intrude upon this place they were never meant to walk on.
Yeah, the stranger.
Yeah, exactly. So
I also think that, especially the visual representation of cabin in the woods with film and TV, but also your creative imagination, the sense of place that a cabin in the woods creates. It's something that is recognizable, that can instantly make you feel safe and excited and comforted, or make you feel strange and weird.
It's a false familiarity,
yes.
And it's almost a simulacrum of safety, because you are in a structure, you're in a house. There are things around there that are familiar to you in terms of, what is in a house, but it's not your house.
No, and
you don't know where stuff is.
You are somewhere, but you're actually in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, and there are some situations where perhaps your assailants are the actual owners of the house, so they have the advantage over you of knowing the house better than you do.
And the woods.
Exactly.
Not just the cabin, but it's also the woods.
You are on someone else's territory.
Yes.
And they know the land and you don't.
Whether it's an animal or a person or both.
And you touched on one other thing, which was the paradox of being isolated and trapped in a claustrophobic manner, while also in what we would consider a wide open space. Mm-hmm. You're in the middle of the woods. You can run in any direction, but the unfamiliarity, the chaotic natural aspect of the woods and the fish out of water, lack of skills that the occupants of the cabin have make it so that they're trapped there. It's like being it's like dying of thirst when you're in the middle of the ocean. You're surrounded by water that you cannot drink.
Yeah. Or the desert.
Yeah.
And you can't find, it all looks the same.
Exactly. So, it's an interesting paradox that you are at once in the middle of nowhere in the wide open nature, but you are still confined to a relatively small space that is not familiar to you. And
what you feel safe inside might end up being your undoing.
Now, the last part of the cabin in the woods trope and why I love it so much that I wanted to touch on is what is required of anyone surviving a cabin in the woods experience. Now, nobody leaves a cabin in the woods the same person they entered.
Right.
There are things that a survivor of a cabin in the woods horror story has to do. There are elements of modern civility that they have to sacrifice in order to survive. This might mean fighting, hunting,
and
killing.
Think of it this way. There isn't a knife block. You're gonna most likely pick a fire poker.
Yeah, or like a farming tool.
Or like there's always going to be a bear trap when you start to run for your life.
That's
a rusty
the thing.
Bear trap.
You are also fighting on a more animalistic level because the protagonists are usually not fighters. They're just regular folk from the 21st century, the 20th century, and they don't have the experience with violence necessary to survive, and they've got to gain that experience in basically like a night or two.
Cabin in the woods don't typically have locks on the doors. The structures are made of wood. It's easily like penetrated through both like force and flame.
Yeah.
Also, again, the unfamiliarity. You don't know where the tools are hidden, or if there are tools. You don't know where the best hiding places are. There's no way, like if a landline gets cut, that's it. Like you said earlier, no cell reception.
It's got to be so great for writers that the cabin in the woods trope persists, because cell phones are just it's the modern deus ex machina. It's like, oh, just call for help.
Yeah.
But out in the woods, you can't.
Yep. And then, like I said, the car won't start, so there's no escape. And then if you do want to escape on foot, you run in one direction and there's an enormous cliff.
Yeah, or
you can't jump off of.
You leave the trail and the light starts fading and suddenly you are walking in circles. Yeah. It's very, very easy to get lost in the woods because you don't have a fixed point on the horizon to stay focused on.
Especially if you're unfamiliar with like directional.
Or you haven't taken orienteering as a Cub Scout.
And again, those bear traps or other man-made traps.
Yeah, it's always farming equipment or a bear trap.
Or you run over, some flat ground and you fall into a hole.
We're going full First Blood style, and Sylvester Stallone is setting up like Vietnam spiky traps for you.
Or you're whipped in the face with a branch.
Yeah. Oh, shit. So, why don't we
take a break and come back with our examples?
It's almost like we finish each other's
sandwiches. Delicious. Are you tired of being told to calm down? Annoyed at no one believing you when you say you see someone outside or in the house or following you home? Finally, a solution for you. To prove once and for all, you got this. Introducing Final Girl CBD Seltzer. FG CBD Seltzer combines everything you love about that sparkly, bubbly treat with the calming and focused effect of cannabidiol. With just one 12-ounce can of FG CBD, you can make it through every bump in the night, hysterical frenemy outburst, inappropriate or unwanted romantic overtures, and jump scare after jump scare after jump scare. Try our enticing flavors like Redemption Raspberry, Exhausted by Elderberry, Extra Virgin Mary, and Mellow Melon Maniac. With each sip, feel all of the nonsense coming from those around you melt away while you figure out how to get yourself out of this fucking nightmare. This is a fake ad for a fake product on a horror-themed podcast. We do not make this amazing sounding seltzer for any reason, but if we did, this would be a great niche market. But we don't, and most likely won't. And we're back.
We certainly are. And aren't you lucky to have us?
So where do you want to start with our examples that we want to talk about?
Well, I thought we had a pretty good conversation, if I may say so myself, about the things that go into making Cabin in the Woods movies. So I thought we could talk about some of our favorite examples of the genre.
And books.
I said examples.
I'm going to go with books first. I'm just going to mention a couple.
I would love to hear them.
Okay, so in 2016, a book called In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware came out. It's about a reclusive crime writer. She doesn't leave her apartment in the city unless it's absolutely necessary. And then a friend who's getting married and hasn't seen or spoken to her in years unexpectedly invites her to a weekend away for a hen party. So this is a British writer. So that's like a bachelorette party.
Ah, yes. Birds and whatnot.
To a weird glass house that's deep in the English woods.
Oh.
So
talk about ancient woods.
Yes.
The woods of the British Isle are thousands and thousands of years old and have centuries of scary myths and, stories of fairies and fae folk.
Yeah. So this character, she reluctantly goes, and then 48 hours later wakes up in a hospital bed, injured but alive, knowing someone's dead and wondering not what happened, but what have I done? Ooh. And she tries to put together the events of the weekend.
Oops.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this is it's not a typical getaway in the sense of the Cabin in the Woods trope.
Yeah, it's a dark The Bachelor.
Yeah, and it's
or The Hangover. That's what I meant.
Yeah, it's all women.
I said The Bachelor. Oh,
it's
God.
all women. It's also about somebody who doesn't interact socially, already setting up an unreliable narrator, someone whose memory that you're supposed to draw off of, and she's a crime writer.
Listen, and
so
and
the knowledge of how to commit a crime and cover up a crime is well within her wheelhouse.
Just some other examples of all-female horror bangers: The Descent,
yes,
and Annihilation spring to mind.
So definitely check that one out. The next book, which we've mentioned multiple times, and we did talk about the movie, which was sort of a disappointment.
A bit of a letdown. Again,
it just didn't go all the way.
Perhaps if you have not read the book, the movie might work for you. But having read the book, it's a lesser version.
Didn't focus on the morality.
It missed the point.
Didn't focus on nature,
and it missed the.
It did
the absolute heart of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. So I'm recommending the book.
Incredibly talented author and a favorite of Stephen King's.
Yes. So 2018 centers on Eric and Andrew and their adopted daughter, Wen. They've left civilization for a quiet getaway in the woods. And all is well until Leonard arrives and tells Wen that he is sad by what he must do. And 3 other people appear in the distance. Another man and 2 women who carry strange weapons and start to knock at the cabin.
Yes.
Which is the name of the movie. But I'm recommending the book.
Highly recommending the book.
And then the third book I wanted to mention is called These Silent...
Can I just quickly jump in?
Sure.
Ever since we saw the movie, I have heard the song My Boogie Shoes all over the place. I don't know if the movie brought it back. I've just been hearing it a lot lately. It makes me sad in that, the movie didn't follow the book where the book went.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Again,
I mean, there wouldn't have been.
Again, it might be interesting to talk to somebody who has never read the book but enjoyed the movie, but if you just have a choice of one, read the book. It is impossible to state how superior it is.
Yes, it is. It's so.
And
good.
honestly, pick up anything by Paul Tremblay. You will not be disappointed.
And also what the characters are forced to think about.
Yes. It's a short read as well.
It is. Well, because you can't put it down.
Yeah, that was the other part. You can really, you can dedicate a day to it and blaze through it, and then be a total mess all night.
The third one is called These Silent Woods by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. It came out in 2021.
It's the only one I haven't heard of.
So this is interesting because it comes from the perspective of ownership of the woods. And what happens when a stranger comes into play.
Yes.
So think about Hannah, that type of idea of where it's about a father named Cooper and his daughter Finch. They live in isolation in a remote cabin in the Appalachian woods. And Cooper basically has a history that he needs to hide. And his daughter's been raised on books in the cabin and like the code of life in the wilderness,
which is a little different.
Yeah, you eat what you kill.
Yeah.
You can only eat when you kill an animal.
Absolutely.
Most likely,
yeah.
grow your own food. It's all about survival, and she's starting to push back against this sheltered life that she has, especially because she's reading books that are of so many other things. The only person they have contact with is this local hermit named Scotland, and he brings them food and supplies each winter. But this year he doesn't show up, and then a stranger wanders into their woods. And Finch becomes obsessed with this person, and then danger ensues.
It's kind of like The Village in a little way.
Yeah.
You know?
Like almost a reverse Village.
Yeah. Interesting.
So those are just some books, because I know we talk a lot about movies, and
I'm gonna.
I wanted to make sure that you all know that this trope exists beyond.
Absolutely. It is so universal.
Yeah.
Comics, books, it's across mediums. It's one of the most lasting, popular, and I don't know if I'd say overused, but it's well used.
Yeah.
Settings. And I think it's because it comes with so many elements already built in that any writer they're not starting from zero with a cabin in the woods story. You've got built-in isolation. You've got a way to get past the deus ex machina of modern technology and the convenience of it. You're taking people and putting them in a situation they're not used to. Like, it basically writes itself.
Why don't you tell us your first movie on your list that you want to
I'm not going to spend too long on this because I have talked about it a lot, but it would be a crime for me to have a Cabin in the Woods episode and not talk about Evil Dead.
Do you think that's the first filmatic iteration of the Cabin in the Woods trope?
I do not. If we're going on Cabin in the Woods, there were a lot of Japanese movies from the 60s that focused on, like Kuroneko or Kuroneko, which the story of women living alone in isolation and being menaced by wandering samurai, or the ghosts.
Well, just listen to our
yokai.
Japan episode, and you'll find out how the Japanese really feel about the woods.
Yes, so it is an older trope, but The Evil Dead is just such a story of scrappy success. And that's what I wanted to talk about. We've talked about it a million times. If you listen to this podcast, fair to say if you haven't seen at least one of the movies, you're familiar with it. But we've got Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, Army of Darkness. We've got Ash versus Evil Dead, the series. We've got countless video games and comic spin-offs.
And they all don't take place in cabins in the woods, but
a lot of them do. Yeah, so I want to talk about the way that The Evil Dead came about. Now, it began life It came to life with the three stooges, as they call themselves. Sam Raimi, who has since gone on to become a very famous, prolific, billion-dollar filmmaker. The Chin himself, Bruce Campbell.
The Chin?
That's what he calls himself, the Chin.
Because he's got that chin.
He's got that incredible chin. And his autobiography, which if you haven't read, you should. It's a delight. It's hilarious. If chins could talk. When I was a young man, went to a book reading for that, and he signed it, and he was hilarious. He basically spent his time making fun of the audience, which was like a blast.
Yeah.
Because it was filled with nerds like me. So these and Rob Tappert, of course. So these three guys, they began by shooting a Super 8 32-minute short film called Within the Woods, starring Bruce Campbell, and this was their proof of concept. This was their please give us money. And it worked. They were hoping to get $100,000. They got $90,000, which was way beyond anything any of these dudes had ever even dreamed of working with.
Wow.
So they just classic guerrilla filmmaking. They shoot this scrappy, low-budget indie film called Evil Dead, and it's gory and it's full of great practical effects. And I want to talk about it. If you've ever seen a Sam Raimi movie, there are certain Raimi moves. There are certain elements of a Raimi movie that just make it a Sam Raimi movie, and you start to see them in his debut, Evil Dead. You've got the long Steadicam POV shot where it's the sort of evil force moving through the woods, and the way they accomplished that was they mounted a camera on a plank of wood and had one person on either side, and they would run through the woods with it and just lift it up and down over logs, jumping over trees, and trying not to fall and break the only camera they had. So that's how they did that
That's
shot.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's just there's so many
I guess
amazing.
I didn't think that they were actually in a cabin in the woods while filming about a cabin in the woods.
These guys were, fresh out of film school, young, hungry, slightly crazy, hilarious, doing everything themselves, and this is real MacGyver stuff, just duct tape and chewing gum, begging for money, and they make this classic that has spawned one of the most successful franchises that 40 years plus later is still going strong. I mean, Evil Dead Rise just came out, and it's a hit. It's getting great reviews. We've now passed it on to a new generation. Lee Cronin directed the new version. It was even remade successfully in 2013. Fede Alvarez, who has since himself become a star. The Evil Dead has launched Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi, Fede Alvarez. It's really...
You can tell one of Richard's favorite movies of all time.
Well,
He's
series,
about it
all
now.
of them. When the first time I saw Army of Darkness as a teenager, I was like, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the first time you showed it to me?
Which one?
Evil Dead?
Well, so Evil Dead's a tough one. I have a story about Evil Dead. So when I was 17, I've always been known as the movie guy, especially the horror guy, amongst my group of friends. And I got invited to a Halloween party, and I was put in charge of picking the movies that would be shown. I thought they meant scary movies. What they really wanted were Scream and that kind of stuff, which is still socially acceptable. I brought some legit horror movies, one of them being Evil Dead, and there's a certain scene in Evil Dead that Sam Raimi himself has gone on record as saying it's the only scene he has ever regretted filming, and he kind of wishes he didn't.
Oh, the tree.
Yes. So anyway, famous amongst dendrophiliacs, but pretty abhorrent to everyone else. That movie got me in a lot of trouble at that party. People were not happy about it. And I was like, well, you asked for horror movies. I brought horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I should have brought I Know What You Did Last Summer. That was what I was told. Anyway, Evil Dead, classic cabin in the woods stuff. And you know what? Just as fun after you watch the movies, read about the making of the movie. There's a ton of stuff out there. These guys are always talking about it. It's a franchise that they've been doing for decades, and you can tell they still love it so very much. And there's a reason for that. It's fantastic. So, Evil Dead.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to start with Misery.
Ooh.
I know I just talked about books.
Oh, Annie Wilkes.
I am talking about the movie here.
It's a great book, too.
It's a great book, too, written by Stephen King. But the 1990 film, directed by Rob Reiner, which always is just crazy to me.
Really?
That he directed this movie? Yes.
No, Rob Reiner, I get that because he's probably more famous for his, like, lighter fare, his romantic comedies, but big Stephen King fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, man, did he nail it with Misery.
He did.
Holy shit.
And the whole idea why this film is so successful and such a great representation of the cabin in the woods is it's not really in the woods, but it is isolated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got the isolation.
The
and
remote,
it is like a little farmhouse cabin type.
Yeah, you have to like go through the woods to get to the other side.
It's out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Starring James Caan and Kathy Bates. So there's only a few people in this film.
Yes.
And also in the book.
And it's largely a single location film.
Yep. And landlines exist.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a psychological horror. And it's based on a romance novelist named Paul Sheldon, played by James Caan, and his deranged, self-proclaimed #1 fan, Annie Wilkes, played by Kathy Bates.
Who I believe won the Academy Award for this.
Yes, and she wants to keep him writing this character.
Well, what happens, he gets into a car accident.
Yes.
Is horribly injured. Yeah.
Let's put the quotes around gets.
Now we're jumping ahead a little bit, but let's just say he is in a car crash.
He's the victim of a car accident.
And he's nursed. He wakes up in the care of Annie Wilkes, who is nursing him back to health. And at first she seems wonderful. And she's reading his latest Misery Chastain novel. The thing she doesn't know at first, because she hasn't finished it yet, is this is the last one, because she dies in this book.
And he wants to change genres. He
wants
to go into like a more crime thriller genre.
So this was a very personal tale for Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
He harkens back to, the real story of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who, when he killed off Sherlock Holmes in the short story, he had him go over, the waterfall at Niagara Falls with Dr. Moriarty, and they both died. The fan base went crazy. He got death threats, and he had to write like a half-assed story bringing him back to life. And he's like, yeah, sure, fine. He lived. Just leave me alone. Oh, my God. Arthur Conan Doyle was one of the rare writers of his time who was also kind of a rock star while he was alive. Mm-hmm. And that comes with its downfalls. So, Stephen King was writing about that, but his own personal experiences, and this is, again, before social media and the internet, so it's only gotten just better and less insane.
But he almost exorcised those toxic demons.
That's what he does with his writing. That's his therapy.
Crazed fan.
Yes.
In the 90s.
So
he already sort of like processed all through that.
Basically
in a controlling way. Like he's controlling this.
Oh, he is both his therapist and his own patient. It's incredible. But he so Annie Wilkes is keeping Paul there at first because she's just a crazy fan. Then she gets to the end of the book and goes fucking bananas.
Yeah. And she basically makes it impossible for him to leave until he delivers what she wants. But what's really, and this is so good, what Stephen King loves to do, a twist like this, is he's changing genres. And she is creating probably this his next story.
And what
as it's playing out, and he's living it.
And the way Paul Sheldon gets his revenge is fucking brilliant.
Yeah, it is.
It's unbelievable. It's so smart. It's so good. The denouement of both the book and the movie are excellent. And of course, whenever you think of Misery, you think of the hobbling scene.
Yes.
Which is even worse in the book.
In the book, I have to say the scene of where he is in the wheelchair and she's gone from the house and he is trying to get a weapon of some kind. He's been like stashing those pills. Because she's, knocks him out while she leaves.
She's doing
so
Munchausen by
intense.
proxy. Oh my God.
That is so intense.
It's one of Stephen King's most anxiety-inducing books.
Yeah, it is nonstop. It also,
And in the book, Annie Wilkes is this is hard to believe, but she is even more monstrous in the book.
it's a fan who's a critic.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
that juxtaposition of you love this work and you're a huge fan, but you're critical of the choices that are being made because you're so invested in this fictitious world. And that happens all the time. It happens with like fans of reality shows where they think that these people are really like they are in reality shows. It's
Shout out to both James Caan and Kathy Bates. Now, Kathy Bates is the best in everything she does. This is the performance of her lifetime.
She can be so playful and silly and light, but she can also do this.
And in this movie, she goes from charming, disarming, kind of, naive in a way to utterly terrifying,
What's that
cold.
phrase that she uses constantly with him?
I don't remember.
It's something like puddly-doo.
Bear with us, audience.
Do I said, but
Dirty
it's
Birdie. It's Dirty Birdie. She calls him Dirty Birdie a bunch of times. It's one of the it's like getting fucking kidnapped by if Ned Flanders was also Jigsaw.
Yeah, right.
Amazing. Kathy Bates is so scary in this movie. It's so when she goes from hot to cold, it is spine tingling. And shout out to James Caan because James Caan is most famous for playing loud, aggressive, bombastic characters like Sonny Corleone. He plays gangsters, he plays tough guys, a racer. In this movie, he is wholly at the mercy of Annie Wilkes. He is at a disadvantage physically the entire time, even before his hobbling, and much more so afterwards. He has to use his wits to get around her.
And he also has to use a psychological sort of twist, which is to give his biggest fan what she wants.
It's not a typical role for James Caan.
Because he's trapped. And he can't go anywhere.
There are scenes where he is straight up begging for mercy, and it's James Caan knocks it out of the park. And I just love it when an actor who is known for a certain thing does a 180-degree turn. Like Jack Lemmon going from The Odd Couple and Some Like It Hot to Glengarry Glen Ross or Days of Wine and Roses, watching Henry Fonda play Blue Eyes in Once Upon a Time in the West. Anytime an actor can show you that what?
And then on Golden Pond.
Exactly. Henry Fonda was like the ideal of the corn-fed American, good guy. And then Once Upon a Time in the West, he straight up murders a family in the first scene he's in.
Yeah.
So I love the versatility. Misery is such a classic.
What are you going to talk about?
My next movie example is Dog Soldiers.
Okay.
From 2002. Now, this is Neil Marshall's debut film. Gotta lay it out there. Neil Marshall, he's had a rough go of it lately. His last few movies haven't hit the way his earlier films have. I am always pulling for Neil Marshall because he gave us Dog Soldiers right out at the gate. He gave us The Descent, a legit modern classic. He gave us the very underrated Doomsday. So anyway, Dog Soldiers, it's a genre mashup. We've got a really great cast. This is not a movie that necessarily passes the Bechdel test. I'm going to throw that out there right away. But we've got Kevin McKidd from Trainspotting and Grey's Anatomy. We've got Sean Pertwee from Everything. Liam Cunningham, you might remember as the Onion Knight from Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
So the story is...
He's in that new Dracula movie.
He was in Let Us Pray. He's in lots of great stuff.
The Demeter.
Last Voyage of the Demeter. Yeah, really looking forward to that one. That's going to be on our recommendations coming up. So this is Marshall's directorial debut. Kevin McKidd he's a British soldier who fails his his application to the Special Air Service, the SAS, which is like the British Special Forces. So the reason he fails is he refuses to shoot a dog in cold blood. That was like his last test, to are you the kind of person who will follow orders no matter what? And he won't do it. And that's ironic because, well, we'll get into that. So he later gets sent out on what he thinks is a war game. So he and his squad are sent to play a fake mission against an SAS squad led by Liam Cunningham. What they find is a very wounded Liam Cunningham and a very dead and fucked up rest of his squad. So, long story short, they retreat to a cabin in the woods that they fortify, as military men, only to find out that the wounded Liam Cunningham was attacked by werewolves. We all know what happens when you get attacked by werewolves. You become one. So it's very gory. It's got some incredible transformation scenes, really good practical effects, but it also has all the elements of Cabin in the Woods. You've got these military guys who can't rely on backup or airstrikes.
Even the fortified cabin, I'm sure.
It's just nailing planks to walls and, moving stuff around. They're not, putting in entrenchments. They're up against an enemy they never anticipated. They have no experience with. They're completely out of their league. They're totally terrified. And not only that, this is an enemy that can turn your friends into enemies.
So now he has to kill his human dog versions?
Basically.
The dog versions of his humans?
Well, I don't want to give too much away, but some of his squad turns. Yeah, so you've got the enemy within, you've got the enemy without. But it's a great mashup of genres. All of the classic Cabin in the Woods elements are there. The isolation, the cutoff from any sort of rescue and communication, fighting an enemy you don't really understand.
Sometimes locking yourself in with the enemy.
Sometimes locking yourself into a false sense of safety. It's just a real banger of a movie. It's gory as hell. It's got great cast, great performances. I mean, this is before Grey's Anatomy. Kevin McKidd was on Grey's Anatomy. So I can't recommend it enough. Dog Soldiers. It's a lot of fun. Give it a watch.
Awesome.
It's a Cabin in the Woods that is a little different.
Well, I think we're both going to talk about this next one, which is Cabin in the Woods.
From
2011.
A surprisingly long time ago.
So, listen, Joss Whedon's problematic. We know that. It's written by him, Andrew Goddard, and directed by Drew Goddard. That's
Drew
all
Goddard,
we're going to say about that.
It's also his directorial debut. Drew Goddard coming to us from Buffy and Angel and very talented guy.
Starring Kristen Connolly, Fran Kranz, Jesse Williams, another Grey's Anatomy alum.
I know, right?
And Chris Hemsworth, everybody. Did you forget that he was in this movie? A little bit.
I didn't.
He is. And also Sigourney Weaver, Bradley Whitford.
Bradley Whitford and Richard Jenkins especially have a very memorable turn in this movie. They're both incredible as like evil middlemen. Evil bureaucrats, basically. And Sigourney Weaver, it's essentially a cameo, but holy shit, it's fantastic. She really, really nails it.
So not only is it called Cabin in the Woods, but it actually takes place, for the most part, in a cabin in the woods. And it is about the trope of Cabin in the Woods.
It's
not just that, but it's a meta horror. It basically laughs at every movie that it perpetuates in this film. Any horror fan watching this will be able to pick out all the cliches, all the stereotypes.
Yeah, so like if you've ever been watching a Cabin in the Woods movie and you've yelled at the screen, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Don't go in there. Why the fuck would you take a shower? What a stupid decision. This movie answers all of those questions.
And it makes references to classic movie after
classic movie. It tells you exactly why they do those things. It is the conceit behind why they're in this cabin, how everything has basically been orchestrated and manipulated. It's so good.
It's so good. And it really is also what it also does is it goes in a direction. So it's not just Scream or like a scary movie type of film where
Yes.
it exposes all of those horror tropes as they play out to like a pretty like understandable conclusion. This movie does not go in a direction where you would ever expect it to.
Pretty much gonna guarantee you will not guess where this movie is headed.
You will not guess the ending in a million years.
No.
And
it
you won't
ramps
understand the ending, and you won't be able to wrap your head around the third act.
It's a kitchen sink of an ending.
Yes.
It is goddamn everything all at once. It is a denouement. It's a bombastic denouement. It's wild. And honestly, fucking works.
It does work because of how it lays out everything that's constructed and predicted, and then you understand how that came to be.
It reveals the secrets. It really wraps it all up, but it also makes a very smart decision to lean heavily into the absurdity of the subject.
Yes.
It just goes all out. There's something very frustrating about a movie that doesn't take their idea to its conclusion. I guarantee this movie does.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, I remember walking out of the theater watching that and been like, that was crazy.
It's a cheer.
But great.
It's like a cheering kind of movie. Like you feel, it's got, honestly, despite the bleakness of the ending, it's so funny and so clever.
Funny. It is, and it deserves a rewatch for sure.
Absolutely, it's a perennial classic. It's Chris Hemsworth's turn in it, especially given once again his love an actor that plays against their typecasting.
God, he's so dumb.
He is great in this movie, and really
in the film, he's dumb.
I'm really glad that the third Thor movie played into his comedic skills because Chris Hemsworth is genuinely very funny.
He really is.
I love that movie. I will watch it over and over again. My next one is pretty much the total opposite.
Is it your last one?
It is.
Okay.
Whereas Cabin in the Woods is a lot of fun. It's a movie you can watch with your friends. This next one is a little bleaker. It is 2019's The Lodge. Coming from Austrian duo Severin Fiala and Veronica Fraz, who gave us both 2014, a really great movie called Goodnight Mommy, and the remake. One of the rare...
Oh, isn't that a new remake with Naomi Watts?
I think so. Yes, it is. It is. Naomi Watts has been... This is the third time that she has been in a remake directed by the director of the original movie.
Can I guess?
Yes.
The first one was the Ring.
The Ring 2, actually. The Ring 2 was directed by Hideo Nakata, who directed Ringu, the Japanese original. He remade his own movie, and Naomi Watts was in it.
Right. Well,
The Ring 2.
I would have said Ringu.
Okay.
Okay. So, and then, what would the second one be?
You know it because you mentioned it on a previous episode. It's also got Tim Roth in it. Michael Haneke's Funny Games.
Oh, right.
Michael Haneke directed the original
That's another
Funny
Cabin
Games.
in the Woods movie.
It is. It absolutely is. And worth a watch. Both the original and the remake are worth watching.
Yeah.
But that's another director who remade his own movie starring Naomi Watts.
Interesting.
And the third one
is this one. And so she's been in 2 Cabin in the Woods movies.
Yes. And 3 movies.
I guess The Ring could also be considered a Cabin in the Woods
She's been
movie.
well, it has elements of it, but she's been in 3 movies that are remakes directed by the directors of the original.
Amazing.
Right? I mean, who knew that was Naomi Watts' niche? But apparently it is. Also, Mulholland Drive is great. So, The Lodge, 2019, oh my God. This is my jam, y'all. This is another one of those slow burn classics. It is starring Riley Cogue. We might recognize from Fury Road. She's also Elvis's Nepo grandbaby.
Daisy Jones and the Six. Right?
I don't know what that is.
Okay. It's a new show it was on Netflix.
Riley Cogue is great. She's been in a lot of stuff. This is my favorite.
Lisa Marie Presley's daughter.
Yes, I said Elvis Presley's Nepo grandbaby.
And she's also going to be in the last movie that I recommend.
Nice. We like Riley Cogue over here. So it's also got Jaden Martell from It. We've got Leah McHugh, who went on to be Sprite in The Eternals, which is a movie that you and I really enjoyed. Yeah, absolutely loved it.
I screamed at the end.
I thought it was great. It's also got Richard Armitage.
At the end.
I know you did. I know
so
you
excited
did. And I know why.
Next one.
Everybody knows. Yes.
I had no idea. You did not tell me.
Don't worry, darling. I know why. So it's also got Richard Armitage and Alicia Silverstone, who's had a little bit of a comeback lately, and I'm really glad to see that. Always love Alicia Silverstone. So
and she's not birding her kids.
I forgot about that. Oh, God.
Keep going.
Listen,
going.
Everyone is weird. Everyone is gross. I'm just talking about their work, okay?
Yes.
You're all weird foot people, I don't care. But I'm just talking about your goddamn acting. Ugh, stop being so weird. So, this movie really amps up the isolation. Now, the long and short of it, Jaden Martell and Leah McHugh are the children of Richard Armitage and Alicia Silverstone. Now, at the very beginning of the movie, Alicia Silverstone kills herself. And the reason she does that is because Richard Armitage is having an affair with Riley Cogue. So, pick up, Riley Cogue is now accompanying Richard Armitage and his kids to a cabin in the woods where they're all going to bond. It's also the dead of winter. So right as they get there, Richard Armitage gets called away on a business emergency, leaving Riley Cogue, who they're now engaged or about to be, I can't quite remember, with these two kids who hate her, do not trust her, and blame her for their mother's death.
Yeah, well,
so they're also
so.
Yeah, they're also in an isolated cabin without their father. She's without her only connection, which is Richard Armitage. And the weather is. This is one of those movies that really uses winter as almost like a character. It's absolutely bleak outside. There is no escaping this cabin. Now, here's the thing. Riley Cogue has a past. Her character. She is the survivor, the sole survivor of a suicide cult. So during this period of isolation with these children that hate her, she starts to hear the voice of her supposedly dead cult leader. And she starts to unravel. Other things start happening. This, again, it's a bit of a slow burn, and like the best of slow burns, builds up to an ending that will leave you gasping for air. It is bleak. It is harsh. There are no winners in this movie. You really do feel for everybody. And wait till you get to learn more about these kids. Now, I'll say Leah McHugh especially, she's so young in this movie. She is so good. She plays her little character with, I don't know, just with a maturity that I'm so blown away by someone so young.
There are so many great kid actors.
These kid actors today, my goodness. We've come a long way from.
We'll definitely do an
from
episode
like
on
Different Strokes.
best kid actors.
Yeah,
or best kids.
Leah
in
McHugh
horror.
and Jade Martell are both fantastic, but Leah McHugh especially, she is really special. And I don't want to give too much about her character away, because when you find out what's going on, and I do want to say that this movie does not end ambiguously. It does wrap things up in a satisfying way. So it's a slow burn that it doesn't leave it open-ended, and it's quite an ending. I really recommend this if you want to focus on what isolation psychologically does.
Yeah, right.
This is a great example of that. It's also another good example of another trope, the psychological unraveling of the female character. We've got examples like Repulsion, things like that. But Riley Cogue does a great turn in it. It's really worth a watch. The Lodge.
Well, my last movie also stars Riley Cogue.
Awesome.
It's called It Comes at Night.
Oh, yeah.
From 2017. Right. starring Joel Egerton and Christopher Abbott as well. And it's Trey Edward Schultz, like slow burning, minimalist psychological horror film.
One of the few slow burns that you actually really like.
Well, because of it's not I mean, it's a slow burn in the sense of the unraveling, but it's not a slow burn in the actual plot and action of
I
the
understand. You are not a fan of more like Stanley Kubrick style, like long shots, that kind of thing. You want the action to move along. I, on the other hand, don't mind a bit of atmosphere.
So the trailer, when the trailer came out, or if you watch the trailer on this film, it really makes it seem like there's a scary monster trying to get in.
It does, I think, do a disservice to the movie.
And we're looking at like a cabin-bound family with a group of friends. And then the whole dread and the fear comes from the unknown of this film. And the distrust of the others that are in this cabin together. So you can't see what's outside. You don't know what's outside. But really what this story does is to show how people from like the outside of your life that maybe have a connection to you or have a connection of somebody who's connected to you, like a spouse of your best friend or somebody who is like not part of your own family. It's really about this unraveling of...
There's a lot of paranoia.
Yeah, there's a lack of empathy. There's a lack of connection, understanding.
It's the darker side of having a family in that some people tend to put protection of their family over others in such an extreme way that they're really, really willing to do harm.
It's also about how, fear and paranoia can cause you to become the monster.
Yes. And
So
it's always
you're
such a tragic, slow-moving car crash,
The greatest thing about this film and why it works so well as a Cabin in the Woods movie is the whole design and how it's directed and laid out makes you feel like the monster is outside. The unknown is outside. That is the thing to fear. But actually, it is locked in with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your paranoia and fear and like distrust and these secrets and lies create this monster brewing.
Well, as celebrated film director Taylor Swift once said, "The problem is you." I also want to mention that Carmen Ejogo is in this movie. She is great.
Yes,
was
she is.
She's in one of the Purges, but I just love when she's an up and comer. Very, very cool. And I think, is she playing Joel Egerton's wife in this movie? Yeah. Yeah, well, it's always tough to watch situations in which trust and paranoia start taking over because it creates problems that don't need to exist. And
there's like a whole like jilted lover situation,
and you're just
new
like
relationship, old relationship.
As the viewer, you're like,
past.
If you could just get past this bullshit, maybe you'd all make it.
Yeah.
But now some of you, if not all of you, are going to die because you are so flawed you can't get past your nonsense.
I think that another movie that does that really well is the one with the animal masks.
The Strangers?
Nope.
The Purge?
No. It's in a house, like a fancy British house.
Kill List?
Nope.
The Conspiracy?
No. Stop guessing.
These are all really good guesses.
You're Next.
You're Next. Yeah.
Because it causes the unraveling of the relationships that you are trying to rely on.
Cube is another good example when the people you are supposedly, you're all in the same boat. You're all survivors. You're all victims of this thing, but you can't even trust each other.
Right.
God damn it.
Yeah.
People, come on.
And then there were none. Agatha Christie.
Mm.
All right. Well, that was our Cabin in the Woods episode.
And as with a lot of subjects we tackle, again,
There's so much out there.
barely scratching the surface.
Find your own.
Cabin in the Woods is. I hope we, if anything, we explained a little bit why it's such an enduring and popular trope.
There will always be a need to escape the, either minutia or the cacophony of everyday life.
Yeah.
Into the woods as you retreat. And I think everybody has that maybe like pit in their stomach when they're in that quiet for the first time, wondering what is out there.
Yeah.
And if they're safe in here.
The woods, it's the terrestrial version of being out in the open ocean.
Yeah.
It's the sense of once vast possibility in all directions because
Well, I think the being out in the ocean is like, I'm thirsty, but I can't drink any of this
and the sense of smallness, of insignificance,
right.
that when you enter a forest that is 15,000 years old, you are no longer the center of the universe. You're not important anymore.
Well, enjoy your summer vacations.
Enjoy
in those
that
lake houses.
Yeah, enjoy that Airbnb cabin in the woods that is totally safe, and you'll be fine. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Terror in Tandem is written, produced, and recorded by Laura and Richard Mathiasen, and edited and mixed by Richard Mathiasen. Our theme was written and performed by Carrie Denver, and all other music was written and performed by David Suspanic. All opinions expressed on this podcast are our own and should be taken as such. Thanks for listening, and please remember to give us a like, a review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. We're standing right behind you.